The Joint Air Attack Team is a combination of helicopters from the Division Attack Squadron and aircraft from an Air Force Fighter Squadron assigned in support of a formation's battle plan. They operate together to attack tanks and other massed targets on the same part of the battlefield. During offensive operations, the team can be best employed against attacking enemy forces that are in the open prior to their being engaged by direct fire of land units. While in the defense, it is most often used to reinforce a unit engaged in containing an enemy armored thrust. The team normally operates in conjunction with brigade or battle group-sized maneuver elements and is supported by their artillery and direct fire anti-armor weapons. The attack helicopter liaison officer coordinates the employment of his squadron with the appropriate maneuver element. He also helps plan for the expected arrival of close air support aircraft and their incorporation into the overall battle plan. The attack helicopter flight is the smallest element of the squadron deployed as a combat entity. Its helicopters are usually armed with 8 TOW missiles, 2 pods of armor-piercing rockets, and an anti-armor cannon. The flight is normally accompanied by a section of observation helicopters. Observation helicopters assist the operation by recceing the target area for battle and firing positions, avenues of approach, choke points, and potential killing zones. They can also search out and report on potential enemy tanks, air defense weapons, and other large, hard targets, maintain visual contact with the advancing enemy elements, and direct any available fire support. They also pass on information to any ground-based or airborne forward air controllers who may be in a position to directly control the incoming fighters and are available to help the aviation commander coordinate the operation. As aviation activity begins, the attack helicopters move to pre-selected holding areas from which they can deploy to engage the enemy. Meanwhile, back at the main operations base, the close air support aircraft have been placed on the appropriate alert status, mission briefings have been completed, and the pilots have finalized their pre-attack coordination. Typical of the specialist close air support aircraft is the A-10, which is primarily designed to engage enemy armored targets. It includes an internally mounted 30mm anti-armor cannon and incorporates 11 weapon stations which can carry approximately 8 tons of ordnance. The A-10's capability is enhanced by a passive laser detection system which assists in locating and identifying targets. Its infrared and optically guided missiles permit a standoff attack against enemy tanks and other vehicles. The flight normally employs a 2-ship line, wedge or trail formation, which provides optimum control, especially in the poor visibility conditions to be expected over the battlefield, and which permits each pilot to aggressively maneuver his aircraft and search for targets. At a designated time, the fighters establish communications with the FAC as they near the contact point. The FAC briefs the pilots on the target, the air defense threat, relative positions of friendly forces to the target, any ongoing activity of attack helicopters, the heading and distance to the initial point, and recommends a direction for the attack. They travel via a route and altitude to stay below enemy radar and surface-to-air missile coverage, and employ terrain masking techniques to avoid detection. The flight then departs for the initial point. While en route, they establish communications with the attack helicopter flight and receive updated threat and target information. On arrival, they are given their final attack clearance by the FAC. The flight leader determines the attack profile and tactics to be employed. Generally, near simultaneous sector or sequential attacks coordinated by timing criteria or geographic features from different approaches afford the highest probability of surprise and saturation of localized enemy air defense weapons. The sector attack divides the target area into distinct blocks, each with specific targets and one or more approaches. This option simplifies coordination, assists with the provision of mutual support, reduces ordnance interference problems, and eases the operation during periods of extreme communications jamming. The sequential attack is used when the target area is small and its approaches are limited. It is designed to keep continuous pressure on the enemy, with one element engaging while the other is maneuvering to a new firing position. During the battle, each component of the team, along with supporting artillery and ground maneuver forces, attempt to maintain a continuous application of fire on the target area and provide each other with updated target and air defense information. Division artillery would initially have attempted to slow the enemy attack, damage air defense radars, and cause armored vehicles to button up. Once the air battle is joined, the fire is continued to minimize the effectiveness of enemy armor and their air defense weapon systems. Throughout the engagement, the helicopter flight leader shifts supporting artillery fire in relation to the needs of the attacking aircraft, integrates the firepower of his helicopters with the incoming close air support aircraft, coordinates his attacks with the FAC and the ground maneuver commander, and uses helicopter firepower to suppress any local enemy air defense weapons immediately prior to the arrival of the fighters and on their departure. He may also assume direct control of the attack should the FAC lose his communications. The engagement continues until it is called off by the flight leader or the FAC, or until ordnance is expended. The fighters depart the area at low altitude, maintaining mutual support and using terrain masking to minimize exposure. The Joint Air Attack Team is a potent weapons combination which can strike quickly and decisively at a threatened point. The coordinated effort of attack helicopter units and ground forces, supported by close air support aircraft and artillery fire, provides the maximum effect on a large target with the minimum expenditure of combat power and the least amount of aircraft exposure.